The rooftop bar at Sky Vault, an exclusive lounge in a koi, pulsed with quiet luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Lego skyline, its towers glowing against the night. Inside, the city's elite sipped aged whiskey and exchanged stories over jazz music and ambient candlelight. Daimeji Adeniran leaned back in his seat, his white center-style captain crisp, his Italian loafers glinting under the lights. He exuded money and power, founder of a billionaire tech firm, and the kind of man who turned heads everywhere he went. But tonight, the conversation had taken a sharp turn. You think every woman is within reach? Toby asked, his brow raised as he swirled the liquid in his tumbler. Daimeji chuckled, picking up his glass with a confident hand. If she breathes air and sees daylight, she can be charmed. Leike scoffed. You're not talking about the brunch crowd. We mean someone real. Someone who doesn't care about your Range Rover or your name. Brian leaned forward, eyes gleaming, like Zura. Who? Zara Jai. She's a cleaner. In your office, bro works late shifts, wears cheap sneakers, barely says a word to anyone. You walk past her every Friday. You probably never looked at her face. Daimeji's interest peaked. A cleaner? Yup, Toby said, grinning now. And word is, she once slapped a junior exec who tried to grope her. She's got fire. She's different. Untouchable. Daimeji paused, then smirked. 50 million naira says otherwise. You're on, Toby said, sliding a napkin across the table. But no gifts, no power plays. You get to go on a genuine date, with just your charm. Daimeji signed with a flourish. The others hooped and clinked glasses. But as the laughter echoed off the glass walls, only Daimeji knew that something had shifted. The game had begun. The polished marble floors of Adeniran Towers sparkled under the morning sun. Inside the 20-story tech headquarters, the air smelled of lavender floor polish and freshly brewed coffee. Staff in blazers clicked past with purpose, barely noticing the figure in blue overalls moving quietly between glass doors and chrome stair rails. Zara Jai dipped her mop in the bucket, twisted it, and glided across the spotless tiles like a quiet dance. Her earbuds buzzed with soft Afro soul, drowning out the city's chaos. Her job wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough to support her younger brother in school and send something home to her grandmother in Ibadan. She was used to being invisible, and that was just fine with her. But not today. From the executive floor, the lift opened with a smooth ding and out stepped Daimeji Adeniran, flanked by his assistant and 2 board members. Zara didn't look up. She rarely did. But Daimeji paused. There she was. No makeup, no heels. Her hair was tucked under a simple black scarf. She wore gloves, had a cleaning cloth in her hand, and her posture was relaxed but precise. She didn't notice him staring. She's the one, he whispered to himself, adjusting his Rolex. He stepped away from the group, ignoring his assistant's puzzled look. As he walked toward her, she glanced up, expecting to move aside. Instead, he stopped. Excuse me, Daimeji said smoothly. You work here, right? Zara blinked. Clearly, you about to step on wet floor. A smirk tugged at his lips. I was wondering if you'd like to grab lunch sometime. She stared at him. You lost. He chuckled. Not at all. Because the cafeteria is downstairs. Asked the receptionist. And just like that, she turned and kept mopping. Daimeji stood frozen. His jaw tightened, but his interest deepened. She wasn't impressed. She wasn't flattered. She was unmoved. And for the first time in years, Daimeji felt the sting of rejection. He walked back to the lift slowly, ignoring the snickers from his assistant behind him. The game had begun, and Zara wasn't playing easy. The next afternoon, Zara wiped sweat from her brow as she cleaned the glass panels near the executive wing. The sun hit the building hard, and the backup generator hummed faintly below. She had just wrung out her mop when she noticed a familiar scent, something expensive, like imported cologne layered over confidence. Peace offering, a voice said. She turned. Daimeji stood there again, this time in jeans, sneakers, and a black polo shirt. No blazer, no wristwatch, just a casual bottle of chilled Maltina in each hand, and that same infuriating smirk. Zara squinted. You again. He held one bottle out. It's hot. You've been working all morning. Thought you might like something cold. She stared at the bottle suspiciously. What's in it? Maltina, not poison. And why exactly are you bringing me drink? Rich men like you know Day see people like me. Daimeiji laughed. That's the thing. I'm trying to. Zara crossed her arms. Well, try somewhere else. I day work. He set the bottle on a nearby table and took a step back. No flirting. No games. Just thought you might need a break. She looked at the bottle again. The beads of condensation tempted her. After a few seconds, she picked it up and opened it with a sigh. If you try any nonsense, I go mop this drink across your face, she said flatly. Daimeiji grinned. Fair. They sat near the stairwell, sipping in silence. He watched her closely, not in the way men usually did, but like she had layers he wanted to understand. She ignored him, but her eyes occasionally darted in his direction. You always this intense? He asked. I'm always busy, she replied. What's your name? She raised a brow. Why? You hiring cleaners now? He chuckled. I just want to know the name of the woman who mopped my ego yesterday. A brief smile twitched at her lips. She didn't answer, but for a fleeting second, Daimeiji knew he had made a crack in the wall. Not a victory, but a beginning. Daimeiji returned the next day. Same casual outfit, same charm. But this time, he didn't bring anything. No drinks. No smooth lines. Just himself. Zara was mopping the floor outside the conference hall when she noticed his shadow. You again? She asked without looking up. No bottle today, he said. Just wanted to say hi. She wrung out her mop, set aside, and leaned against the wall with arms crossed. Listen, Olga, whatever this is, I'm not interested. I clean floors, not egos. Daimeiji raised his hands. Okay, but what if I just want to talk? She eyed him. About what? Your latest yacht? Your net worth? I know your type. You talk soft, smell nice, and disappear once the novelty wears off. He tilted his head, intrigued. So you've dealt with men like me? I've cleaned your type off floors more times than I can count. He burst into laughter, which surprised her. No one laughed when she threw shade. You're something else, he said, still grinning. You've got rules. Zara's gaze narrowed. Plenty. I want to know them. She stepped closer, mop in hand like a spear. Rule number 1, I don't mix work and nonsense. Noted. Rule number 2, if you insult me with pity or pity money, I'll clean you like a toilet. Daimeiji swallowed a laugh. Brutal. Rule number 3, no touching, no promises, no expectations. He nodded slowly. So if I asked you to lunch now? She scoffed. You won't. But if I did? She raised a brow. Then you be testing rule number 4. I don't date men who think they can walk into my life like they own it. Daimeiji smiled, hands in pockets. I like rule 4. It means I have to earn it. Zara blinked. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. She simply picked up her mop and returned to work. And Daimeiji walked away with the first taste of humility in years. The next Monday, Zara was reorganizing the cleaning supply closet when she heard footsteps behind her. She didn't turn. Only one person had that confident but overeager stride. You again, she said, voice flat. I come in peace. Daimeiji replied, hands in the air. She peeked over her shoulder. He wasn't dressed like a billionaire today, just plain chinos and a faded t-shirt. Still, there was something annoyingly rich about his presence. What now? She asked. You want to learn how to mop? Not yet, but I figure if I'm going to keep showing up, I should help with something. She looked him up and down. You? Help. He pointed behind her. Those uniforms need folding, right? Zara chuckled. Fold them how? Like origami. I'm a fast learner, he said, rolling up his sleeves. Zara watched, amused, as Daimeiji bent over the staff uniform she had just washed and tried to fold them like T-shirts in a boutique. His first attempt was a crumpled mess. No, she said, stepping beside him. You fold like you've never held a cloth before. Correct. I haven't, he confessed with a sheepish grin. She took the cloth, folded it swiftly and neatly, then handed it back. Now copy. He followed her movements carefully, tongue slightly poking out in concentration. She laughed. You look like a kid doing homework. He folded again, better this time. Zara raised her brow. Not bad. See? I'm improving. Don't get ahead of yourself. You're still folding with your chest. They both laughed. And just like that, the air between them softened. She didn't smile often, but now her face lit up with something lighter, unguarded. Why are you really doing this? She asked. Daimeji paused. Maybe I just want to understand someone who doesn't care who I am. Zara studied him for a moment. Then, surprisingly, she handed him another cloth. Fold this one straight, big man, or you're cleaning the mop bucket next. It was Friday, and the office buzzed with the usual tension of deadlines and coffee runs. But Daimeji's mood was unusually light. He had cleared his afternoon schedule and told his assistant to hold all calls. Today, he had somewhere important to be. Not a boardroom, not a gala, a street, Balogun Market. By 1 p.m., Daimeji stood on the roadside, dressed down in jeans, canvas shoes, and a plain brown cap pulled low. He looked like any random Lagos guy, except the shine in his skin betrayed him. He checked his reflection in a side mirror, smudged a little dust on his cheek, and took a breath. Zara had agreed to show him where she usually bought her affordable cleaning supplies. You won't understand me, she had said. Then follow me into my world. He spotted her in the distance, dark brown skin glowing in the sun, ponytail tucked under a faded cap, and a backpack slung across one shoulder. She walked like someone who owned the road, even if it was cracked and noisy. You're on time, she said when he approached. I was early, he replied. Humph. You sure you won't faint in this sun? I'm stronger than I look. They moved through the market's chaos. Traders shouting, hawkers swarming, kiki horns blaring. Daimeji trailed after her like a student, dodging puddles and shaking off the stares of people wondering what a fine-looking man was doing shadowing a cleaner. Zara didn't flinch. She showed him the stalls, bargained fiercely over detergent prices, and rolled her eyes when he offered to pay. You follow me, come here. Nobody to open wallet and feel like savior. This is my world. We survive here, we don't depend. He put his hands up in surrender. Okay, boss. As they walked back toward the bus stop, Daimeji turned to her. You ever get tired of fighting so hard? He asked. Zara looked at him, serious now. Every day. But I don't know how else to live. For a moment, he was silent. Then, softly, you don't have to fight alone. She didn't answer, but she didn't walk away either. Zara stood in front of the small mirror in her shared staff quarters behind the Adeniran Towers complex. Her clean navy blue blouse was tucked into black high-waisted trousers, and her cornrows were freshly oiled. She didn't know why she was bothering. This wasn't a date. At least, that's what she kept telling herself. Outside, Daimeji waited in a modest Toyota Corolla, not his usual Range Rover. He tapped his fingers on the steering wheel, glancing at his watch. When Zara finally stepped out, he sat up straighter. She didn't wear makeup, but her glow didn't need help. You clean up nicely, he said as she got in. She smirked. Don't get excited. I only came for food. He laughed. Noted. They drove to a hidden bistro in Lekki Phase 1. Charming, not flashy. Warm lights. Plantain-scented air. Local art on the walls. Zara looked around cautiously. This place isn't what I expected. No chandeliers, no violinist, he said. Just peace. As they sat down, she ordered umla and yudu with goat meat. He followed her lead. The waiter raised an eyebrow. Billionaire orders local? Daimeji didn't blink. Overplates of steaming food. They talked. She told him about growing up in Mushin with her younger brother and how their mother died of typhoid when she was 16. Her voice didn't crack, but Daimeji could hear the weight between the words. He told her about being raised with too much money and too little guidance. People think success fixes everything, he said, but sometimes It just hides the emptiness. Zara raised a brow. And now you think a market girl can fill that emptiness? He leaned back, hands open. No, I think a real woman can remind me what matters. She didn't respond. But for the first time that night, she smiled, a soft, reluctant curve of the lips that made Daimeji's breath catch. It wasn't a date, but something had definitely started. Days passed, and something unspoken grew between Daimeji and Zara. Like music playing in the background of a quiet room. He still showed up at work in tailored suits, but by noon, he was often in his polo shirts and sneakers, trailing her through corridors or sitting in the supply room pretending to be helpful. Zara never asked why he kept coming, but her sarcasm had softened. Her eyes lingered longer. She laughed more easily. One Thursday afternoon, they sat on a bench outside the back of the office building. Zara was on break, sipping sachet water, while Daimeji peeled roasted groundnuts from a black nylon wrap, like a true Ajigunno born. You're blending too well, Zara said, amused. Next thing, you'll be selling gala by the roadside. He chuckled. I'd probably overprice it. No doubt. She leaned back and looked up at the sky, her voice distant. You ever think about legacy? Like, what people will say when you're gone? Daimeji looked at her. Sometimes. I used to think it was about power, wealth, headlines. But now, I don't know. My mother used to say, if the only thing people remember about you is what you wore or what you owned, then you lived wrong. He was silent for a moment. What would you want people to remember about you, Zara? She blinked, caught off guard. That I never let life break me. That I kept showing up even when I had nothing. Daimeji nodded slowly. You've already done that. They didn't speak for a while, just sat together in quiet understanding. Then Zara nudged him with her elbow. So what's your deal, really? No fake lines. Just truth. Daimeji exhaled. I've made a lot of noise in life chasing the wrong things. But now, I think I'm finally listening. She turned to him, her eyes softer than he'd ever seen. Then listen closely, Daimeji. If you break my heart, I'll break your office laptop. He laughed, but his chest tightened, because what she didn't know was that her heart was already on the line, and the bet still hanging in the shadows. Friday evening arrived with the kind of golden sunset Lagos rarely gifted. From the rooftop of the modest restaurant in Yaba, Daimeji had arranged a quiet dinner. Nothing fancy, just warm lights, soft music, and a chance to breathe. He had texted Zara hours before. No pressure. Just us. 7 p.m. She showed up at 7:13, wearing a simple cream blouse tucked into navy palazzo trousers and brown sandals. Her hair was tied in a low bun, her face bare but radiant. Late. Daimeji teased as he stood to pull out her chair. You're lucky I showed up at all, she said, though her smile gave her away. Dinner was quiet, easy. They talked about music, her obsession with old Nollywood films, his failed attempt to fry plantain once, and how they both hated the smell of office air fresheners. Then came the moment. Daimeji cleared his throat, suddenly serious. Zara, would you go on a proper date with me? No distractions. No jokes. Just a man genuinely interested in a woman who keeps outsmarting him. She stared at him for a beat. Proper date as in what? This isn't proper enough. He smiled. This is perfect. But I want to know you deeper, outside mop buckets and rooftop dinners. No pretending. Zara bit her lip. And what makes you think I'll say yes? I'm hoping your heart is at least half as open as your mouth. She laughed, rolled her eyes, then slowly nodded. Okay, one date. But if you act like those boys that say, let me spoil you, and then ghost you after one la plate. Zara. What? He leaned forward. I don't want to spoil you. I want to grow with you. For a split second, her guard dropped. Fine, but no funny business. He raised his hand like a scout. No funny business. As they stood to leave, Daimeji reached for his phone, his fingers trembling slightly. In the group chat, The Circle, the messages were already flying in. Toby, how far, Chairman? Has the Queen agreed? Leke, you still Day Street or you done go soft? Brian, Update us. Oh, our 50 million is calling. Daimeji stared at the screen, then quietly put the phone back in his pocket without replying. Because for the first time, he didn't care about winning. He just didn't want to lose her. The next morning, Daimeji sat in his penthouse apartment in Banana Island, the early light spilling across imported furniture and untouched luxury. But his eyes weren't on the view. They were locked on the message notifications lighting up his screen. Toby. So she finally said yes? Leke. Hope say you record am. We need proof of life. Brian. You're too quiet, my guy. Don't tell me you're catching feelings. Daimeji sighed. His fingers hovered over the keypad. He typed, "We're good. The date is set. Just give me time." He stared at the message for a long second. Then he deleted it. He couldn't tell them the truth, not yet, because if he said it happened, the bet would be done. The money would come. The mockery would follow. And Zara would be reduced to just a game. He shut the phone and tossed it aside. There was a knock at the door. "Sir." It was Neka, his quiet, middle-aged housekeeper. The caterer from the event called again. "Tell them to wait," he said, rising. He paced. He hadn't told Zara anything about the bet. How could he? Every time she laughed, every time she playfully threatened to mop his car tires, the guilt grew. In truth, he had fallen. Hard. And it terrified him. Later that day, he walked into the staff lounge in his office where Zara was wiping down a dusty window frame. She didn't see him at first, but when she turned, her expression changed. "Why you day look me like that?" she asked. He shrugged. "You ever feel like something you planned as a joke has turned into your reality?" Zara narrowed her eyes. "You better not be talking about us, because I don't have time for broken jokes." Daimeji forced a laugh, but it didn't reach his eyes, because the joke wasn't funny anymore. And if he didn't find a way to come clean soon, the woman he was falling for might be the one thing his money could never buy back. Zara had never been to Banana Island before. She'd only seen it in music videos and Instagram reels. Gated estates, glistening rooftops, and streets so clean they looked like they were waxed. So when Daimeji sent a sleek black Lexus to pick her up for their Saturday hangout, she hesitated. Then curiosity won. As the car pulled into the massive compound, Zara's lips parted slightly. The mansion was understated but majestic. Glass walls, white stone, and lush plants lining the walkways. A domestic staff greeted her with a polite bow before leading her through the entryway. Inside, it was quiet, peaceful, nothing like her shared flat in Ajij. Then she saw him. Daimeji stood barefoot in a simple t-shirt and joggers, holding a bowl and looking nervous. "You cook?" she asked, one brow raised. "I'm learning," he replied, scratching his head. "I figured it's time I did something useful." She chuckled, setting her bag on a polished glass table. "Where's your chef?" "Day off." "Liar." He grinned. "Okay." I told her to take the day off. "I wanted to cook for you." Zara followed him into the kitchen, which was larger than her entire apartment. The smell of burning tomatoes filled the air. "You day fry stew or roast a pot?" she teased. "Just stay close in case I faint." She rolled her eyes and picked up the spoon. "Move, Jer, before you poison both of us." They ended up cooking together, laughing, chopping vegetables, burning rice, and finally settling on jollof with too much pepper and fried plantains that somehow turned out perfect. After eating on the rooftop terrace, they sat in silence for a while. "You don't have to impress me," she said suddenly. "I like you, but I don't belong in this world of yours." "You belong wherever you want," Daimeji replied quietly. Zara looked at him, at the man who wore power like skin but laughed like he needed healing. She didn't know everything yet, but for the first time in a long time, she felt safe. Zara arrived at work Monday morning to find Whispers waiting for her. Two female staff in the HR corridor slowed their conversation as she passed. The office receptionist, usually friendly, avoided her eyes. Even the janitor from the night shift gave her a strange look when she entered the cleaning closet. She paused by the mirror and frowned. Her blouse wasn't stained. Her ID card was properly clipped. Hair neat. So why the stairs? Upstairs, Daimeji sat at his desk, jaw tight, scrolling through his phone. The group chat had exploded overnight. Brian, you're officially ghosting us, Dims. What's going on? Toby, we're his cleaner babe giving you premium service now. Leke, Abi you done fall in love for real? Omo, 50 million isn't for simping. Someone, he wasn't sure who, had leaked a blurry photo of him and Zara laughing in his office parking lot. It had made its way around. And now, people were talking. He stood abruptly, shoved the phone into his drawer, and headed for the cleaning corridor. He found her wiping the metal handles on the elevator. She didn't turn when she spoke. You told someone? No, he said quickly. But I think they found out. She spun around slowly. Her expression wasn't angry. It was worse. It was wounded. So I'm a joke now? The cleaner girl dating Olga? Is that what they call me behind my back? Daimeji stepped forward. Zara, no, don't Zara me. You should have said something. Warned me. I didn't expect them to be this vile. She folded her arms. Well, you should have. I live in the real world. People like you don't end up with people like me without somebody bleeding. He flinched. Before he could respond, she turned and walked away, back straight, chin up, like she wasn't breaking inside. Daimeji stood there, surrounded by polished glass and billion-naira silence. For the first time since the bet began, he realized something terrifying. He was no longer in control. Zara didn't show up to work the next day, nor the day after that. By Wednesday, Daimeji was pacing his penthouse, glancing at his phone every few minutes, scrolling through her messages, rereading old replies. She hadn't blocked him, but she wasn't replying either. Just unread ticks, blue silence. He called her twice. No answer. He left a voice note. Zara, please call me back. I need to explain. I didn't mean for it to go this way. Still nothing. The guilt sat like hot coal in his chest. That evening, he opened the group chat. Daimeji, she found out, not about the bet, but the gossip. She's hurting. Leke, then fix it, bro, or forget the money. Brian, we said no attachments. This was just fun. You messed up by catching feelings. Toby, maybe it wasn't fun for him anymore. Or for her. Daimeji stared at the screen, then typed slowly. Daimeji, I want out of the bet. Brian, what? You serious? Daimeji, she's not a pawn. And I'm not that guy anymore. He muted the group, then stood, grabbed his keys, and drove to Jeej. He had no plan, no strategy, just instinct and the memory of her laughter. He asked a woman selling tomatoes by the road if she knew a Zarajai. She day lived for that compound way day behind that tailor shop, the woman said, pointing. When he got there, the gate was locked. No lights, but there was a little boy playing outside. 8, maybe 9. Excuse me, Daimeji said, squatting to his level. Do you know Zara? The boy tilted his head. Nah, my sister. Daimeji's heart jumped. Is she home? She day village. She traveled 2 days ago. Daimeji's throat went dry. Do you know where? The boy nodded, then pointed to an old framed photo of their grandmother's house, visible through a broken window pane. It was time to go find her. No chauffeur, no suit, just a man chasing the woman he let down. The sun was already low in the sky by the time Daimeji's car reached the quiet village in Oyo State. Red dust clung to the tires, and the breeze carried a scent of firewood and damp earth. This wasn't Banana Island. There were no marble floors or glass elevators, just rows of low bungalows, chickens wandering freely, and the kind of silence that forces you to confront your own thoughts. He parked beneath a tree and stepped out, adjusting the collar of his simple gray caftan. Nothing flashy. He dressed deliberately plain. A few villagers stared as he walked past, their eyes narrowing at the unfamiliar car and the unfamiliar man. He approached a compound where an elderly woman sat peeling yam on a wooden bench. A boy, Zara's brother, Tund, sat beside her. Daimeji removed his cap, greeted respectfully, and asked, Is Zara home? The old woman looked at him with curiosity. You be the Lagos man? He paused. Yes, I'm the one who broke her heart. She said nothing, just jerked her head toward the back of the compound. There she was, carrying a basin of water on her hip, wearing a faded Ankara wrapper and a plain top. Her braids were tied up, her skin bare of makeup, but she was radiant, like home after a storm. She froze when she saw him. He didn't wait. Daimeji dropped to his knees, right there on the dusty ground. Zara. She blinked, stunned. I messed up, he said, voice tight. I never told you about the bet. It started as a stupid dare. 50 million naira for a date. But then I met you, and everything changed. Her jaw clenched. So it was all a game? It was, at first. But not anymore. You made me see life differently. And if I have to kneel in every village in Nigeria to earn your forgiveness, I will. From his pocket, he brought out a small velvet box. I don't care about the money. I care about you. Marry me, Zara, not because I want to win, but because I've already lost everything without you. Silence. Then Tund, eyes wide, shouted, Say yes, sister. Zara's breath hitched. Her eyes welled up. She stepped forward, helped him to his feet, and whispered, You better not mop my heart and run. He smiled. Never. And beneath the quiet sky, in front of a peeling wall and a cheering child, the girl who once scrubbed his office floors said yes. 1 week later, the Lagos sun rose gently over the modest courthouse in Ikoyi. No press, no fancy convoy, no Instagram influencers in Gelly and sequins. Just Daimeji and Zara. She stood under the purple blossoms of a jacaranda tree in a white lace gown she had sewn herself. Simple, graceful, with every stitch holding a part of her journey. Her braids were pinned back in a soft bun, her makeup minimal. She looked like the kind of bride that no money could create, only love could shape. Daimeji wore a navy blue abaya, modest but tailored to perfection. His Rolex stayed home. His smile did not. Beside them stood Tund, bouncing on his toes, grinning like his cheeks would split. A judge in glasses that kept sliding down his nose presided over the brief ceremony. You may now exchange vows, the judge said. Daimeji took Zara's hand and looked into her eyes. I spent my life building things, companies, deals, empires, but none of it ever felt real. Then you walked into my world with a mop and a glare, and somehow everything made sense. I promise to build with you now. Not things. A life. Zara blinked rapidly but didn't cry. You tried to win me like a prize, and ended up becoming a man worth loving. I promise to remind you every day that love is not something you earn. It's something you give. They slipped on their rings. No diamonds, just gold. Smooth, simple, sincere. You may kiss the bride. Daimeji leaned in gently. Their lips met, not with fire, but with certainty. Afterward, they signed the registry, posed for a few photos under jacaranda, and walked hand in hand toward the parked car. No bouquet toss, no music, just peace. And when Daimeji opened the car door for her, Zara turned and said with a teasing smirk, You still owe me one full mop bucket of explanation. He laughed. I'll mop the whole compound every morning, if it keeps you beside me. Monday came too soon. Daimeji stood in his office, silent, alone. The gold-framed photo of him and Zara taken outside the courthouse now sat quietly on his desk. His staff didn't know yet. The wedding had been private, intentional. He opened his laptop and stared at the group chat. The circle. It had been mute for days. Until this morning. Brian, Omo, you in the bet, or what? We haven't cashed out. Toby, still waiting on that date confirmation, Chairman. Leke, hope say the cleaner babe no play you. Daimeji exhaled. He stood, walked a window, and looked out over Lagos. Then he returned to his desk and began to type. Daimeji, she said yes, but I'm not collecting the money. There was a long pause. Then the typing bubbles began to bounce. Brian, wait, you're married? Leke, like as in wife? For real, Toby. You threw away 50 million Nigerian nairas? Daimeji, she's worth more. The group chat went silent. Then one by one. Toby, mad. Leke, respect. Brian, I don't get it, but I guess love wins. Daimeji closed the chat and deleted the napkin photo, the one they all signed that night in the lounge, laughing like boys with nothing to lose. He opened a new file, a blank business proposal. Title, Zara's Cleaning and Facilities Limited. The logo, a bold Z shaped like a mop wrapped around a crown. She didn't ask for it. She hadn't even mentioned a business yet. But he knew Zara wasn't the type to sit back and play trophy. She was a builder, just like him. He smiled, closed the laptop, and walked out. The elevator opened to the executive floor, where Zara stood, clipboard in hand, directing 2 junior cleaners. She saw him, smiled with her eyes, and kept talking like a boss. Daimeji slipped behind her, whispered, "Your office is ready." She turned. "Mine." He nodded. "You're the new head of operations." She blinked. "You serious?" He shrugged. "Only for the rest of our lives." She looked at him, then kissed his cheek, and turned back to her team. "All right, people, let's get to work. Floors don't mop themselves." A month had passed since the wedding, and the city had started whispering. The press had caught wind of it. "Billionaire weds office cleaner in secret ceremony," screamed one online headline. Blogs speculated. Gossip brewed. But Daimeji didn't grant interviews. And Zara? She laughed them off like mosquito bites. But she had one unfinished business. "Drive me to Balagan," she said one Saturday morning. Stepping into their SUV in a yellow Ankara blouse and denim trousers, tying her braids into a loose bun, Daimeji glanced at her. "You miss your old battleground?" She smiled. "No, I just need to face it again on my own terms." The market buzzed just as she remembered. Hawkers shouted. Traders bargained. Zara stepped out with a confident stride. Her head held high. She walked past her old spot, now occupied by another vendor. The woman noticed her. "Zara, you don disappear. Now wedding ABI." Zara laughed. "Something like that." Other traders recognized her too. "You don fine finish." "Oh, aha. This one not madam now." She hugged the ones who mattered, smiled at the ones who once mocked her, and walked on. At the corner, she spotted Linda, her old friend, still folding clothes and fanning herself with an old calendar. "Z baby." Linda shrieked. Zara ran into her arms, laughing. "I missed you, beg." They sat on an overturned stool, just like old times. Linda peered over Zara's shoulder at the sleek car parked at the edge of the road. "So, now you're Olga turned husband?" Zara rolled her eyes, smiling. "Now me turn boss first." They laughed. "He day treat you well?" "He day worship ground way I mop," Zara said, winking. Later, Daimeji joined them, dressed simply, holding cold malt drinks. Linda's eyes widened. "See, fine in law. You greet people, oh." Daimeji chuckled. "I day greet. I just day follow madam instruction." Zara looked at him, at the man who once bet on her, then bet everything for her. She whispered, "Now you see where I came from?" He nodded, eyes soft. "And I respect it." They sat there for a long while, 2 worlds, now one, at peace with their past. 3 months later, the signboard went up. Zara Facilities and Cleaning Services Ltd. Head Office, Adeniran Towers, Victoria Island, Lagos. It was bold, black on gold lettering. Simple, elegant, and impossible to ignore. The launch was intimate. No press, no champagne pop, just a ribbon, a prayer, and a promise. Zara stood in front of the building in a fitted wine-colored power suit, her braids swept up, gold studs in her ears. Her face glowed, not from makeup, but from confidence. Her smile said, "I've earned this." Daimeji watched her from the side, pride blooming in his chest. "You ready?" he asked. She gave a short nod. "Let's open the doors." Inside, the new office buzzed softly. Fresh paint, clean desks, branded folders stacked neatly. Her team, made up mostly of women she handpicked from overlooked corners of Lagos, wore tailored uniforms with embroidered ZC initials. Zara walked through the space, giving instructions like she'd done it all her life. Room service arm reports to Beezy. Floor care rotates weekly. All cleaners go through customer interaction training. No sloppiness. No shame. She stopped at the last desk. Her own. A small glass table with a leather chair. A framed photo of her, Tund, and Daimeji beside it. She turned to her husband. Now I see it. See what? He asked, smiling. That the mop was never my prison. It was my ladder. He exhaled, stepped close, and kissed her forehead. That ladder just built a company. Later that evening, Zara stood before her team. Many people used to look at me and see just another girl wiping floors. What they didn't know was that every floor I cleaned was a step towards something greater. The team applauded. Behind her, Daimeji clapped the loudest, because she wasn't just his wife. She was a queen in sneakers, a CEO in disguise, a dream no Beck could ever define. Success, especially when it came from unlikely places, had a way of making some people uncomfortable. At the next quarterly board meeting of Adeniran Group, whispers followed Zara into the room. She was there as head of operations for her new subsidiary, ZC Services, now a formal partner under the Adeniran corporate umbrella. But she could feel the skepticism in the air. An older board member muttered to another, "So the cleaner's now signing contracts?" Zara sat upright in her seat, unfazed. She'd walked through worse. She'd survived market insults, hard water, and Lagos traffic. A table full of expensive watches and silk ties wasn't going to shake her. Daimeji noticed the tension, too. He gave her a slight nod from across the room. She didn't need saving, but he was ready if she needed backing. Halfway through the meeting, the CFO, Mr. Debola, gray suit, trimmed beard, and an air of quiet arrogance, cleared his throat. "Mrs. Adeniran," he began, stressing the title with barely concealed disdain. "Your division's Q1 numbers look promising, but many of us wonder, how sustainable is this success? Cleaning services isn't exactly a high-growth sector." Zara leaned forward. "With respect, Mr. Debola," she said calmly, "we're not just scrubbing floors. We're redefining hygiene standards for corporate spaces. We've on board 5 major banks in less than 8 weeks. My women, many of whom were once ignored, now wear branded uniforms, receive health care, and handle high-value contracts. We've built loyalty, not just income." The room went quiet. She held his gaze. "And just so you know, our projections show 45% growth by Q4. So yes, it's sustainable. And then some." Even Daimeji sat back, stunned. The chairman blinked. "Well, that's settled then." As the meeting ended, one board member whispered to another, "She's sharper than most of the men here." Outside, Zara walked ahead with her file. Daimeji caught up, smirking. "I think I just fell in love with you all over again." She rolled her eyes, but her smile betrayed her. "Good. Now fall into the passenger seat. We have suppliers to meet. Power. Grace. Focus." She wasn't just in the room now. She was owning it. Zara stepped into the newly furnished office that sat atop the annex building beside Adeniran Towers. It wasn't the biggest space in the complex, but it was hers. Glass doors, warm wooden floors, indoor plants she personally picked, and her name etched in gold on the entrance. Zara Jayadeniran, Managing Director, ZC Services. She walked to the floor-to-ceiling window that overlooked Victoria Island. Down below, the streets buzzed, Okadas weaving, yellow buses honking, and Lagos living as if on caffeine. She smiled. Behind her, Tund, now wearing a crisp blue intern shirt and a staff badge, bounced into the room. "Sis, this place fine like bank." Zara turned. "It's not just fine. It's the beginning." He walked over to the desk and picked up her framed wedding photo. "You and Daimeji look like Nollywood stars here." She chuckled. "We were just 2 people tired of pretending." He nodded thoughtfully. "So, when will you start training me to be boss too?" She sat, pulling out a notebook. "You start with understanding people. The rest will follow." Later that afternoon, Daimeji stopped by, briefcase in hand. "Boss lady," he teased, peeking in. Zara looked up from her laptop. "Ah, the husband I allow into my empire." He dropped into the guest chair. "So this is the real seat of power, hmm?" She folded her arms playfully. You think the boardroom you sit in means anything without this corner of the building running on fire and heart? He whistled. Omo, market girl to mogul. No, she corrected softly. Cleaner, to queen. He leaned forward, eyes warm. And I'd mop every corridor in this tower just to meet you again. Zara smiled, reached across the desk, and held his hand. The world may have met her as a cleaner, but now the world will remember her as a force. Because when life underestimated her, she didn't shout. She simply built. It was a quiet night at Sky Vault Lounge, the same rooftop bar where it had all begun. Same velvet seats, same dim lighting, same skyline view of Lagos glittering in the distance. But everything else had changed. Daimeji sat at the usual corner table, sipping Chapman this time, not whiskey. He wasn't alone. Zara sat beside him, legs crossed, dressed in a sleek jumpsuit that said boss louder than words. She wasn't here to be a guest. She was here to witness a full-circle moment. Brian, Leke, and Toby arrived one by one, each with different expressions. Brian wore guilt like cologne. Leke was visibly nervous. Toby tried for his usual swagger, but couldn't meet Daimeji's eyes. So, Brian started, adjusting his watch. You really married her. Daimeji didn't flinch. Yes, and it was the best decision I've ever made. Zara leaned in, cool and unbothered. And no, I didn't trap him. No juju. Just dignity and a mop. The silence was heavy. Toby chuckled awkwardly. You know, we were idiots. You were boys, Zara replied. Now's your chance to be men. Leke cleared his throat. Daimeji, we owe you an apology. We treated your heart like a scoreboard. Brian added, and we treated Zara like a punchline. Zara softened. I'm not asking for apologies. Just respect. For every woman who's had to prove she's more than her title. Daimeji raised his glass. To growth. They clinked glasses. Zara stood. I have work tomorrow, so I'll leave you guys to reminisce. Daimeji walked her to the elevator. Are you okay with me staying a bit longer? He asked. She smiled. Yes. Just don't let them rope you into another stupid bet. Next time, you'll be mopping my whole company. He laughed. Fair. As the elevator doors closed, he turned back toward the table. The past was sitting there, but his future had just left wearing heels and purpose. And he'd never been more certain about where he truly belonged. The Lagos Business Women's Conference was the biggest event of the year for rising female entrepreneurs. And this year, Zara had been nominated for the Breakout Female CEO of the Year award. She didn't want to go. What if it's a setup? She asked Daimeji, adjusting her earrings nervously in front of the mirror. It's not, he said calmly, straightening her cape sleeve. You earned this. I'm not the kind they give glass plaques to, she murmured. You're not, he replied. You're the kind they build statues for. Let's go. At the Landmark Event Center, the hall was bursting with elegance. Women in tailored suits, ankara gowns, geli-like crowns, men in tuxedos. Cameras flashed. Anchors posed. Social media influencers live-streamed every speech. Zara and Daimeji walked in together, but as soon as she was seated, he slipped away. Tonight's about you, he whispered. Not us. When her name was called, the entire hall turned. The announcer read out her story, not the cleaned-up version, but the truth. Former office cleaner, self-made executive, founder of ZC Services, job creator, visionary. Zara walked to the stage slowly. She didn't cry. She didn't smile too wide. She just breathed. At the podium, the applause swelled. I used to scrub bathrooms for companies that wouldn't even look me in the eye, she began. Now I sit at the table, but I didn't come alone. I came with every woman who's been underestimated, every man who's had to start over, every child who watched their mother clean to feed them. A pause. My story is proof that dignity and grit can build empires. And love? Love is not what saved me, but it walked beside me when I decided to save myself. The crowd rose. A standing ovation. Daimeji watched in the shadows, clapping slow and proud. His wife was no longer the subject of gossip. She was the woman everyone wanted to be. Zara had just finished a strategy session with her team when the receptionist buzzed in. "Ma, there's a woman here. Says her name is Madame Gladys. Claims to be your husband's aunt." Zara blinked. "Send her in." Moments later, an older woman stepped in, wrapped in rich lace with an air of quiet judgment. Her gilly was sculpted high, and her perfume arrived a few seconds before she did. "Zara," she said, looking around, "so this is your empire." Zara stood. "Welcome, Ma. Please have a seat." Madame Gladys waved her hand. "I won't stay long. I just came to see what kind of spell you used on my nephew." Zara's face froze, but she didn't flinch. "I don't use spells, Ma. Just Daedalin goals." The woman raised a brow, half amused. "You think this world is ready to accept a cleaner as a wife of a dynasty?" Zara smiled, calmly pouring her guest a glass of water. "Then the world will adjust." Madame Gladys leaned forward. Daimeji's mother would have never allowed this. Zara placed a glass down. "And yet, here we are, married, thriving." The older woman studied her for a long moment. "You don't cower easily, do you?" "I've faced men with wallets fatter than their brains and bosses who forgot I had one too. I cowered once. Life didn't like it, so I stopped." There was silence. Then Madame Gladys stood. "Well, you're smarter than I expected. That's dangerous, but maybe necessary." Before she left, she turned at the door. "Make him happy. If you don't, the same crowd that clap for you will clap when you fall." Zara's voice was steady. "Then let them clap. But they'll never say I wasn't standing when they did." When the door shut, Zara exhaled slowly. Tund walked in seconds later. "Everything okay?" She smiled, brushing off the invisible dust. "Perfect. Even my enemies are acknowledging the view from the top." It was a Friday evening. Zara had stayed late at the office to finalize her quarterly budget, while rain drummed lightly on the windows. Across the street, at a lounge near Adneron Towers, Daimeji was attending a client mixer. It was meant to be casual, drinks, laughs, handshakes. But trouble had worn red silk that night. Her name was Amaka, an old flame, a corporate lawyer with cheekbones as sharp as her mind and a habit of entering rooms like they belonged to her. "Daimeji Adneron," she purred as she approached. "Still breaking hearts or just stealing headlines now?" He offered a polite smile. "Good evening, Amaka. It's been a while." "Too long," she said, sipping her cocktail. "I saw the photos. Cleaner turned queen. Very Cinderella." Daimeji's jaw tensed. "Her name is Zara." Amaka smirked. "Relax. I just came to say hi. But if you ever get tired of playing house with the help, you know where to find me." That was the wrong thing to say. Daimeji stood, collected his phone and keys, and met her gaze. "You know, Amaka, when I used to think like you, I was rich, but empty. Zara didn't just clean floors. She cleaned my life." He left the lounge without saying goodbye. Minutes later, he walked into Zara's office, damp from the rain. She looked up from her desk, startled. "Didn't expect you tonight." He walked straight to her, knelt beside her chair, and rested his head on her lap. "What happened?" she asked, fingers brushing through his hair. He looked up. "Nothing. I just needed to remember what peace feels like." She smiled, gently cupping his face. "Then sit. Let's finish this budget together." And they did. While others dressed like threats in designer gowns, Zara wore strength like skin. And Daimeji knew no fantasy could ever tempt him from the truth. Zara stood at the window of their home, watching the first light of dawn spill across the Lego skyline. The scent of rain lingered in the air. Behind her, the bedroom was still dim and quiet, the sheets slightly rumpled from a restless night. She hadn't slept much. Her phone had buzzed past midnight, a forwarded voice note from a blocked number. "We all know he married you out of guilt. Cleaner turned pity wife. You'll never truly fit into his world. Sooner or later, even the gold ring will rust." Zara hadn't responded. She didn't need to, but the old wounds reopened, not because the voice was right, but because it echoed every fear she had once buried deep. That maybe she had come too far too fast. That maybe loving a man like Daimeiji was a cliff she'd only learned to fly off of, but never land. She heard soft footsteps behind her. Daimeiji. He wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. "I saw your face last night," he murmured. She didn't speak. "I know that look, the one where you're smiling for the world, but your soul is pacing." She turned slowly to face him. "You think I don't belong?" she asked, almost in a whisper. He frowned. "Where is this coming from?" "I got a message. Said you married me out of guilt." His eyes flared. "I married you out of awe." He cupped her face. "I was guilty of not knowing real love until you. Guilty of nearly ruining it with pride. Guilty of betting against my own heart. But guilt didn't bring me to the altar. Grace did." She blinked fast. "What if I fall? Then I'll fall with you, and we'll rise again." Zara exhaled shakily. In that moment, the fear began to loosen its grip, because even queens have doubts, but true kings remind them of their crowns. 1 year later, the headlines were different. ZC Services expands nationwide. From cleaner to CEO, Zara Jadniran speaks at Women in Business Summit. Power couple Daimeiji and Zara Adeniran launch new tech employment initiative for underprivileged youths. The world had finally stopped whispering. Now it listened. On their anniversary, Zara and Daimeiji sat on the rooftop of their home. Just the two of them. No press. No velvet lounge. No drama. Just candlelight, jollof rice, and laughter. "You remember that stupid napkin?" Zara said, sipping her wine. Daimeiji chuckled. "The one I signed my ego away on? The one that nearly cost you everything." He nodded, eyes full. "It didn't. It gave me everything." They clinked glasses, no champagne, just fresh Zobo. "I used to think love was a prize," Zara said quietly. "Now I know it's a partnership." "And I used to think power was control," Daimeiji replied. "But now I know it's choosing to serve the one who sees you at your worst and still stand beside you." A gentle breeze swept across the rooftop. Below, the city pulsed. But up here, time slowed. Zara reached into a small box and pulled out something folded, worn, creased, but still legible. The original bet napkin. "I kept it," she said, "as a reminder that even mistakes can grow roots, if watered with truth." He took it, stared at his signature, and then ripped it in half. "Let the past stay torn," he whispered. She smiled. The street girl became a queen. The arrogant billionaire became a man worth following. And together, they built not just a life, but a legacy, not of money, not of reputation, but of love, earned, honest, and unbreakable. Because in the end, the real bet wasn't whether she'd say yes. It was whether love, tested raw and real, could win. And it did, every single time. The end.